Hello, welcome to Woodland Permaculture. I'm Jenny Wood, and today I've got a special treat for you. Today is going to be my second annual update on what's happening here at Woodland in the garden that I tend. And I'm very excited to share with you because there's lots of great things happening here. So what I want to do first is just let you know that I'm going to do a couple of videos. I'm going to do one where I compare this year and 2 years ago when I first started doing the garden, and that I will have some inset pictures for you so you can compare and see the two, how different it has become. And there might even be a couple of inset pictures from last year, because last year there was a few things that I really want to show you that are changed from last year as well. And then I think I will do a second video that will get a little bit more into detail about things that are in the garden, because there's so many new things now that I want to make sure you see at least most of them. And I think if I try to do both of these things at the same time, that the video would be an hour long, and nobody wants to sit through an hour-long video. So I figured I'd split those two things up. So I'm very excited to do that. I will also link in the description below the videos from last year and the year before, so you can go back and look at those if you happen to be interested as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Here we are at our first stop. I always like to start with this view of the front, just to give you a good overview and so you can see how it has changed from a couple of years ago. And here's where I will inset a photograph from 2 years ago, and you can see the difference. 2 years ago, all there was a tree, and that was it, and there was barely even any grass. But now it is just green and lush and full of life. So let's zoom in and see what else we can see. So much greenery now, a lot of which is my cover crops that I planted to help build the nitrogen. A lot of this stuff in the middle there is all vetch and clover and peas to help build the nitrogen. Here along this front are the berries, raspberries and blackberries, and some beautiful California poppies. And then over here in this corner is always a corner I love to highlight, because I will inset a picture here. I took a picture of it when we first moved in because, oh my gosh, it was just barren. That the grass didn't even want to grow on this corner, and so it was just completely bare, compacted soil, cracked and dried. And now look at it. It's just full of life with lots of different plants. It's been covered with compost and mulch for almost 2 years now, and it is just thriving. And it's just one small illustration of the difference. Then over here is where the rest of the driveway used to be, that we tore out because we wanted this to be more of our garden. There's the jacaranda tree doing really well, goji berry and a blackberry, and the fig tree over there. And then we'll get to this area at the end by the gate in a few minutes. But right here is an overall view from this angle of the front yard. And I'll put in another picture here to show you the vast difference from 2 years ago, where there was nothing here. And now there's just so much life and abundance. I just love it. And it really just brings so much joy. All of these beautiful plants and everything. I wanted to highlight my little Manzanita. Now I'm going to inset a picture from last year, because I had just planted this last year and it was tiny. And it is bigger. It's not a ton bigger, but it is bigger. So here is the difference between last year and this year. My son-in-law, when I first planted this, said, "That's not a Manzanita, that's a boyzanita," which is still a running joke now between me and him and my daughter. So that is fun. I'm using the front yard also to grow some brassicas and some other food and stuff. So, oh, and I'm also battling the earwigs. Here's the lemon guild. I showed you the lemon guild last year. The lemon tree is doing a lot better than it was last year. However, this is such a shady spot, I don't think it's going to get any fruit here. And I may have to do something about that. But I did get another lemon tree for a sunnier spot, so I'll show you that in a minute. And then of course the fennel. Here's the fennel again, and it is just thriving. It died back some in the winter, but it definitely came back. And I have one more little fennel I can see growing over in that area. but we'll see. I'm trying to keep it from taking over everything. And then here's the banana tree. Oh, I love my banana tree. And it is doing well. It is just starting to get new leaves this year. This is probably only the 5th or 6th new leaves since spring started, but it's looking really nice. And my hope is that later this year, if it gets big enough, it might just give me some bananas. So that's what I was told, is if I took good care of it, then maybe this year it'll give me bananas. And then of course, here's the pond. The pond is just doing really well. I just love it, and it brings so much joy to us. Let's see if we can kind of go in there and see if we see any fish. Do you see those fish in there? We still have all the same fish, except there were 2 babies born to the goldfish in last fall. I don't see either of them right now. They're just smaller goldfish right now. But it was really exciting to have 2 new fish born in our pond. And then the waterfalls over there, and then the elephant trees. And then this area I've really developed a lot this last year. I've put in a couple of new California hazelnuts, one there and one over here. Right now there are 3 tomato plants there. And then the new lemon tree that I got is right over there. It doesn't have sun right now, but it gets like 6 to 7 hours of sun a day. So I think that one, and it's already got a few lemons on it, so I think that will work better there. The almond tree is doing really well and actually has some almonds on it, and more on that in the next video. And then there's a couple of currants and other things in that corner. Oh, and then of course the lamb's ears. I have to show you the lamb's ears. They're probably double in size since last year when I showed it to you last, and they are just starting to bloom. You can see right here, they're just starting to bloom. So that's awesome. All right, well, let's come over here. Rosemary from last year. And the other thing I want to note is how huge these scented geraniums have gotten. Can you see that? They were like a third of this size last year when I did the video. And now there are 3 of them around the pond, and they are just kind of taking over. My husband loves it. He says, oh my gosh, it makes it look so natural and beautiful because they're climbing all over the rocks and everything. And so it's just wonderful. Let's take a look at the box up here. So here's the box, and there's not too much different here except for the succulents are really growing. As long as I'm watering them, they do great. And here's the canna that was there last year. It's getting big and beautiful. And then here's the succulents over here, and they've all bloomed. A lot of them have bloomed, so that's really cool. Oh, the mint actually is coming back. I thought it had all died away, but there is definitely some there, so that is really cool. And then around here, there's of course the pathways, and then around here at this gate I've got some ceanothuses. I planted 2 more ceanothuses here, and there's the original one that I planted, and all of the lavender. This is my sail that I try to keep shade on my pond to keep away the algae. But the lavender is just really grown and looks great. So here's one more view of the front yard, and I will superimpose a picture from 2 years ago to show you again just the difference of what the front yard looks like and what it used to look like. And now let's go over to the other gate, and we'll go towards the backyard. So here we are going towards the backyard. Not a huge difference from last year, but from 2 years ago. This was all just sidewalk. It was still driveway. It was concrete. So there's a huge difference. The only difference from last year is that I added 1 more grape, and I'm looking for a 4th grape to go just beyond that so that there's 2 on each side. And I still want to build my arch. I'm hoping to get that started this week. So this is my catch-up week, and so I'm hoping to get that started this week. And then let's go through the gate and see. Now the side yard is looking a lot better. The side yard, I still haven't done much with it in terms of the garden, but it was completely overrun with weeds, and so that's gone, so I'm happy about that. Here's the rainwater catchment system, still working. I've got this pump right here to help me pump the water out. As you can see, there's water in there, and both of them are full because we had some rains recently. Wasn't it so exciting to get rain in April? Man, we do not get a lot of rain in April, so that was very welcome. So here we go. Just going to go down this side yard and get to the patio where things get to be more interesting. I've got my couple of new kiwi trees here. This one's the male and this one's a female. The male is in a pot on rollers so I can move it around. Right now and for the rest of the summer it'll probably stay right there so it can get lots of sun. But in the winter I can put it over here off to the side, you know, so because it probably won't get so much sun there. Looks like she needs some water. And then here's the patio. And I'll put up a picture from 2 years ago just to remind you. There's not a lot of difference from last year, but there was the shed over here 2 years ago that we removed and then built, you know, a makeshift shed on the back end, on the back third of the patio. And so that has really been a big help. That gave us storage, but also helped us to open up that area over there from food forest. And then here's the backyard. And it just, even from last year, looks a lot better. Oh, and I'm sorry, those are wind chimes. I love my wind chimes. But the pool is doing great. We are really looking forward to swimming in it this year. And last year I mentioned that I didn't think it was really permaculture-y, but somebody corrected me and said, even though it's a regular pool, it can still be good for permaculture because it cools off the air in the atmosphere. It still provides moisture. Little bugs can still drink from it, and so it still can be a part of the garden, which I really appreciated that comment. And then let's go over here. Here's the sweet alyssum that I showed you from last year, and it's still going strong, and all of the sage that's along there is just blooming this year and looks great. It never bloomed last year, but this year it's blooming and just looks beautiful. Kind of hiding the rosemary that's right there at the base, at the bottom. But here, let me see if I can give you a picture of this. I don't think I have a picture of this from 2 years ago, but this was all, again, just bare yard. And now it is the beginnings of a food forest. Here are my three sisters, my three stone fruits. And they are growing. Look how tall the plum has gotten. I'm going to have to trim that back. The wind is really catching it. I'm going to have to trim the tops of those off. And each one of these trees has at least some fruit. So this one has peaches. There's peaches there starting to grow. I'm excited. The plum really has a lot of plums, which I love plums, so that's exciting. And then the pluot, the Flavor King pluot. Now this is the one I wanted the most. It has one little pluot right there, just one. For some reason, even though it had a lot of flowers, and you know, it's right next to the Santa Rosa plum, which is supposed to fertilize it, it did not get a lot of fruit. So if anybody out there knows why that might be, please let me know. Down here, last year there were 3 giant tomato plants here, and this year I planted potatoes. So these are all potatoes and they're doing really well. Back there along the back are some morning glories that I'm growing. And then right there is the lime tree. You can see that lime tree right there. That used to be over by the fence to the right. But it wasn't getting enough sun. So I recently moved it over here and already I think it's looking a little bit better. But I need to trim down some of these branches because you can see it's casting shade on there and I really wanted to get more sun. But here's the borage is covering up this plant, this other plant here. But the borage, man, we have had so many bees up back here, so many different kinds of bees, and the borage is a big contributor to that. Same thing with the sage. Here's the sage flowers, and I don't know if you can see them, but there are a lot of bees around in the sage. And the bees, we also have flies now, but I'm not too worried about those. And then there's the pincushion plant, and it gets bees and stuff. The milkweed is doing really well. I had 2 milkweeds. I think one of them got covered up by this mound of dirt over here, and so it's not there anymore. But I've got this one, which is a native narrow leaf. And so my hope is that one day it will be the host to a monarch caterpillar. That's my hope. Back there, you can see the trellises I've put up, and they are starting to get morning glories growing on them. Just recently, I harvested and took down a bunch of snow peas from this trellis, which is why it's bare right now, and all of the dead branches and stuff are on the bottom. providing mulch with the chop and drop technique. And so I planted some more snow peas under there. Some of the seeds that I harvested, I just put them back down in the dirt. We'll see if they grow. I don't know if they will, but we will see. Might get too warm for them. But at least I'll have morning glories over on the other one. I just a couple days ago planted this California coffee berry. I have been really excited about California coffee berry. I had 2 originally when I first planted things, and they both died. So I'm going to try and keep this one alive. Those are celeries back there, which I don't really use, so we'll see how useful they become. Then I've got some lovely strawberries along here. This is a passion fruit. Now, last year I had a grapevine here, and it did die. It was looking really bad last year, but I just put in the passion fruit not too long after that came out, and it's looking very nice. And it's getting, it's had like 3 flowers. When I bought it, it already had like 7 or 8 passion fruits on it, so they were delicious. And this year I hope it gets more. And then, oh, I didn't mention the other trees. Hold on, I have to back up. Here's the grapefruit tree from last year, and it's definitely getting bigger and looking good, and it's got some grapefruits growing on it. I am going to prune those off. I'm going to, selectively pinch some of those off. This one is a new 3-in-1 cherry. My 4-in-1 cherry died. I was so sad. My fault though. Can't blame anyone but me. And now I've got a 3-in-1 cherry that is growing, and I hope it keeps growing. I'm going to try and take really good care of it and hope that maybe next year it'll get me some cherries. And then this right here is the male pistachio tree. I just transplanted that a few months ago when it was dormant. Some of you may have seen that video. I transplanted it there so that it could fertilize the female pistachio, which is over in this corner. So here's the female pistachio and some beautiful morning glories behind it. And this is another native plant, but I can't remember what it's called. So that's there. And then last year I missed telling you about this cherry tree. This one is a Stella cherry, and it's growing really well this year, and it's getting some cherries on there. So I think those are turning yellow because they're starting to get ripe. That's my hope anyway. So, and then this area over here I still have to do something with. I think I want to put a chicken coop here. Shh, don't tell Andy. That's where I'm thinking of putting a chicken coop. And then of course here's the apple tree. And the apple tree is still chugging along. It's doing really well. It's got a few dead stuff on it, but it's got some great apples. You see the apples right there? They're doing great. And last year it gave me a really good crop of apples, and I made apple butter, which I absolutely love. So it was great. Oh, and then of course there's the fire pit area. Can't forget to mention that. The fire pit area is doing great. And oh, I already weeded it. Like, it was like completely overrun with weeds a few months ago because the rain. And now it's starting to come back with some more weeds. So I have to get in there and get ahead of those before they take over again. And then over here, some plants, a couple of elderberries. I did get a new elderberry to replace the one that died last year, but I also ended up with 2 more and some cranberries. So hopefully we'll be giving those to my daughter. And then around this area over here, I have a new 3-in-1 pear tree, which I'm pretty excited about. It is growing, although I'd love to see it grow some more, except for this one graft. I'm sad to see that graft did not put out any leaves. So I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. That it came as a bare root and none of the branches had leaves. And so it's just possible that one did not work. So I may only have a 2-in-1 pear tree. And then there's my workspace, which is still quite messy down here. Here's the other rain catchment system, also full of water. And I still do a lot of work here. This down here is like a mulch pile, a couple of pallets that I always thought I wanted to do something with but couldn't figure it out. These are all branches that I've trimmed that I'm using to make the trellises. These are daikon radish cuttings that I just cut up, yesterday or the day before actually, and they are going to go onto the compost pile. This is my dirt pile here, some cardboard, dirt pile, and my greenhouse. We'll go in there in just a second. Here's my compost pile, although next month I am going to completely redo my compost system. I think I'll still end up having to have a pile like this, but most of my composting I think is going to be in situ, as Morag Gamble says. So let's go into the greenhouse. The greenhouse is doing really well. I actually have some good plants in here. These are the tomatoes I planted from seed. I started late in March, and so they're still not, you know, super big, but these are almost ready to go out into the garden. These are some calendula over here. I had some peppers, but for some reason the peppers just aren't growing. So in the winter time, it was still cold in here. It wasn't getting warm, and I was trying to figure out how to keep things warm. That's why the compost pile was there. I was hoping the compost pile would help heat it up, but it didn't work. So what I did was I got these used shelves, and I put a bunch of things up on the top shelf because I knew it would get more sun and more warmth up there. So now I've got several things up there as well. These are all seeds that have not sprouted yet, or have just barely sprouted. Like I said, the red peppers are really struggling. I can't seem to get them to sprout at all. So maybe it was just bad seeds or something, but I'm still trying. And there's some other things. So here's my new dandelion, so I'm going to try growing some dandelions. Okay, let's see. Let's come back out this way. All right, now from here is another good view of the yard and of the garden, and I will inset a picture of what it looked like from this angle 2 years ago, so you can see the difference there. Just astounding. So it's great. So there's not a huge difference from last year, but from 2 years ago you can still see it. It's a huge difference, and hopefully it'll just keep getting better. Okay, well that's the end of our tour for the second annual update of Woodland and the progress that's being made here. I am so glad that you were able to join me. Before I go, I wanted to share with you one piece of really exciting news that happened for me. Last month, I was able to get my permaculture design certificate through the Santa Cruz Permaculture group out in Santa Cruz, California. And they just provided just the most wonderful setting, community, and education that I could have asked for. It was just a wonderful experience, and I'm so glad that I was able to finish that. So now I can actually design some things myself, including my daughter's garden down the road. I did a design for her for that class, and so now we get to work on creating a beautiful space for her. And so it's really exciting for me. And these last couple of years have been a wonderful spiritual journey for me, and I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity to learn and to grow and to be able to care for and to nurture some of God's creatures, some of his both plant and animal creatures, as well as to help be a steward for the earth and the most beautiful creation that he's given us, this gorgeous planet that he gave us. I again am so grateful that you could join me, and I'm grateful, and hopefully you guys are getting something out of these videos as well, and learning with me and able to see some of the possibilities for maybe some of the spaces that you tend and that you steward. Thanks so much for joining me. You guys have a wonderful day, and God bless.